everyone. Thank you for tuning into the JPR's fundraising live stream. This is a quick reminder for you to click the link in our description box below and donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Uplift, and the Ujala Foundation.
Welcome to the College Roundtable. We are joined by three esteemed students of the prestigious NYU Stern School of Business, Ishita Marda, Aditi Gupta, and Anaya Gupta. I would request all three of you to give a quick introduction about yourself to us, specifying your major for us.
We can go first. So I'm Ishita Marda. I'm a freshman at Stern, studying finance and data science. I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Aditi. I'm also a freshman at Stern. And I haven't declared my concentration yet, but I plan on doing marketing and operations. But it's yet to be decided. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Anaya Gupta and I just got into Stern. I'm not too sure what I'm going to pursue, so I'm still undecided.
Thank you. We're honored to have you here.
So for the interview, we're going to name you if we have a specific question for you. And if it's for all of you, then we'd say that and you could answer one by one.
Sounds good.
So firstly, I'd like to ask you all to please tell us why do you choose NYU Stern over any other university, and what was the major deciding factor?
I mean, Stern is one of the best business schools out there, but also because Stern allows you to be flexible with your subjects. Like you can choose to do whatever you want, take a major in some other school at NYU, and also take a minor in psychology, which I am planning on taking. It also has like a sustainable business concentration that not many schools offer. But yeah, the fact that Stern, NYU Stern specifically, is very flexible with its curriculum, with its concentrations, is one of the reasons why I chose it. And the location's great, as many of you know. It's located in the center of New York. You can never have too much of New York. So yeah, there's that. And yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think mine would have to be the same. Of course, New York is an added benefit for me because it's literally the financial hub of the world. And you're not only studying in a city that just teaches you so much more every day, whether it's about like arts or like Broadway or even just in general, the people you meet, they're from all across the world. So you get a very diverse education. And on top of that, like Aditi said, I'm also planning on doing a cross-school minor. It's the business of entertainment, media, and technology. And it's basically a collaboration between Stern, the School of Arts, Tisch, and the School of Culture and Communication, Steinhardt. So you not only get to learn more about like the business aspect of entertainment and media, but also the production and how it impacts people. And I think another added benefit is the global reach, because NYU has so many study abroad programs. They have like 13 study away locations that are NYU locations themselves. And you can just, you can take a term abroad and you can learn a lot from where you go. Just to go off on that, even in these study abroad locations, you have some of the best professors from some of the leading universities teaching you what they are good at. So you can't really exploit that opportunity enough.
I think I absolutely agree with Aditi and Ishta. Both of those reasons were absolutely imperative in my choosing Stern. But I personally believe that all major universities have more or less the same education, but it's the opportunities and perhaps the professors that really differ. And for me, the fact that NYU Stern is in New York was absolutely pivotal because there are so many opportunities that you get within New York. Some of the largest Fortune 500 companies are housed in New York. The internship opportunities are endless. And also the professors. One of my favorite business professor teachers at Stern, Scott Galloway. Although I think he's a postgrad professor, but still I think you can take 1 or 2 classes under him, if I'm not mistaken.
We all know how competitive NYU Stern is. So we'd like all of you to tell us some of your main extracurricular activities, academic achievements, and prestigious awards.
Yeah, I can go first. Like, at least in college, I decided to try out for like really different clubs that aren't very finance related this semester. So of course, I was in the freshman liaison program for the business analytics club, which is like the data science club at Stern. And it wasn't as much about data science as it was just learning how a club works. And it's just great for networking because it introduces you to so many seniors who can share their experiences and you can learn from it. And I was also in the mentorship program at the Stern and Tish Entertainment and Business Association because I am doing the BEMT minor. So there was that. And there's USWIB, which is Undergraduate Stern Women in Business, that Aditi and I are both a part of. And as you said, Stone can get competitive sometimes. So there's also like clubs like USWIB that really help empower and like you can empower and uplift each other through it. It's just a good break from the competitive nature of the college. Yeah, clubs like I'm only involved with undergraduate Stone Women in Business, USWIB, and I would say it's a great community of driven women that you can always rely on, and their mentorship programs are so helpful because you always have a senior to fall back on. The amount of resources and the way that they help you is really, really like imperative, especially when you face so many challenges as a freshman. Like as in when you like get to your second and the next semester, it obviously gets easier. But initially, you do need that help, and there are so many clubs at Stern, as Ishita mentioned, that really, really help you with the entire process. But like another thing, regardless of whether you're a part of a club or not, the one great thing about Stone clubs is that they're filled with people who are always ready to help you out. So if you ever have a question, you can always reach out to a senior who's currently on the e-board of one of these many clubs, and they'll go out of their way to help you with anything you need, whether it's interviews or just like stress management. Like if you ever just want to like grab a cup of coffee with a senior and learn more about their time at NYU, you can just reach out to them and they'll be more than happy to help.
So I don't think I can answer in terms of what I'm doing, what I did at college, because I'm not there yet. But I can tell you what I did here to get into NYU Stern, if that's like all right.
Yeah.
So I think some of my major extracurricular activities was firstly the student council, because I think student council is seen as an important activity throughout like the world at almost all schools, because you see your administrative skills, your leadership skills, your skills of liaising between the student body and the administration. More than that, I also launched a toilet building campaign called DMKD, wherein we raised over $50,000 to make 2 villages in Rajasthan completely open defecation free. So this was sort of similar to my theme of sustainability, wherein I also wrote a research paper under a US professor, Professor Logvinenko, and I got an A on that paper. He also wrote a letter of recommendation for me. So that was one other activity, which was both academic and it sort of catered to my personal interests, which was sustainability. Uh, Along similar lines, I'd also launched a startup called Jemico, which was again a sustainable jewelry brand. So I think there was a lot of sustainability in the activities that I'd done. So I mean, I think that's extremely important to show colleges that you have this one major interest, and a lot of your activities and a lot of what you want to do at that college is sort of catered to that one interest.
So I think there are a lot of clubs at Stern that help you connect with people, and obviously we know Anaya's extracurriculars at school. So this question is for Anaya specifically, as she's just gone through the admissions process. Are there any specific requirements, or is there anything unique required in the application process specific to NYU Stern? And how do you think JPI has prepared you for this journey in your career?
So I think I'd always made my interest in going to a business school very clear to Ayush sir and Akriti ma'am, and a lot of my subject choices were very specific to that. So if you're applying to a business school that's as competitive as Stern, it is recommended that you choose Math HL, So that's something that GPIS really prepared me for, because they had told me that math teacher is absolutely pivotal if you want to apply to a business school like Stern. And more than that, I think there's nothing absolutely extraordinary that goes into applying to Stern. Of course, your extracurriculars need to be more business oriented and you need to show that passion. And whatever, for example, if you're applying for a specific concentration, then maybe your activities could be more kindled towards those. Aside from that, I don't think there is anything quite special that is required for you to apply to NYU Stern, because everyone understands you're just high school students. You don't need to have insane extracurricular activities in order to get in.
So I'd like to ask Ishita and Aditi if you've attended both virtual and physical classes, and if you have, is there any major difference between both the classes?
Yeah, so obviously with the entire Zoom setup, you have the flexibility of choosing when you want to take the classes. But obviously going to a classroom, sitting there and experiencing it all in person is it can't beat the Zoom experience. So hopefully everyone gets to experience that next semester. Plus, I guess it's a lot more engaging when it's in person. Like you do concentrate a lot more. There are fewer distractions. I feel like the teacher, like the professor and the students alike are more like interactive, more engaged in the whole process. But I would say Zoom is also like a great platform to like study, because you can go back to the recordings whenever you want. We can't even explain you how many times we've looked back at our recordings just to like go through stuff before our exams. So yeah, there's that.
But luckily, Anaya won't have to worry about that because most of NYU's classes are in person.
All
next
are in
semester.
person next semester.
But I think another aspect that like Aditi like didn't touch upon was the social aspect of going to classes, because you just meet so many more people at Stern when you go to the building. Especially because we live in like NYC and NYU doesn't really have a campus. It's more spread out all across like Manhattan. So you just get to interact with a lot more people. And I think that's great. That's something that we're missing out on right now.
Yeah, one of Stern's unique selling points is the networking that you do at this school. And I guess just going to Stern, attending classes in person, meeting all of these great people is something that you obviously can't do as easily over Zoom. But yeah, in person, we're really looking forward to the next semester when everything's in person and we can explore it
Except
all.
for the social aspect, do you think your learning has been hindered in any way, like because of the barrier of COVID and all?
So the thing is that the professors at Stern are very accommodating and they're also like super helpful. So even if you have like a small problem, they always have office hours and you can always email them at like whenever throughout the week to just like ask them for help, and they would never say no. And even the teaching fellows are like so good with their material and they know everything inside out. And I think that really helps. So I don't think Zoom or otherwise has ever like hindered our learning capacity or the entire process of just like um, learning a new thing. But yeah, that's because the entire community here, teachers and teaching fellows alike, are like very accommodating and helpful.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. But I guess we're not really the best people to ask that, just because we haven't taken that many in-person classes yet.
Yeah, we've literally taken like 2 in-person classes yet.
Yeah, so I guess we'll find out next semester.
So seeing that the admissions process would be fresh in Anaya's mind, would like you to tell us what you think was the most challenging part of the process.
I think for most people, it's writing essays, but I really enjoy creative writing. So for me, that was never a problem. I think a more challenging part is sort of, this is not exactly the admissions process, but before that, like curating your activities and prioritizing them and just making sure they're like perfect for college. Because I remember a lot of my friends struggled with this. We were in the hostel and we had to sit with each other for, I don't know, 3 hours a day and like curate one another's activities, prioritize them, see how well they sort of go with each other, remove activities. And a lot of people wouldn't have enough activities to put in there. So they'd like like start doing Coursera courses. So I think that was a challenging part because getting into college is not just about getting good grades. It's about getting good grades, having good extracurriculars, and writing great essays. So I think it's maintaining that balance between those three elements that's really tricky for most people because you somehow fall short on one or the other. I think that's one bit that was tricky for me.
Going back to what Ishita and Aditi said, it's a question related to that. How do social gatherings actually occur there? The non-traditional campus is me wondering how and when kids get together in NYC, and if there are locations where you're bound to find kids congregated during, before, or after school hours.
So things are better in New York now. Like everything's opening up. The city is touchwood doing well. So people have started gathering. We do have a few clubs that meet like in person, but all of it is still over Zoom. And I guess you just need to find Stone is like very individualized. So I think you need to find your group in the first few months and just like you end up spending most of your time with them, and you end up spending most of your time with people that you get close to. It with again, like with COVID, it's tough for us to like meet new people every day, but hopefully next semester it gets better and we're able to like meet new people and like just like socialize a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, for now, at least, NYU is taking a lot of precautions just to make sure that the community isn't harmed further because of COVID. So we do have restrictions in place, especially when it comes to club meetings or just meeting other people who aren't from the same dorm as you. But I think we still try to make the best of it. I mean, we go out to restaurants whenever we can, and we try grabbing coffee with as many new people as we can just to make sure that we do meet a lot of new people in our freshman year, because I think that's the one year that everyone is very willing to interact with like other people. So
Yeah, like you have to understand that everyone comes to a university not knowing anyone, so they're the most prone to like interact with new people then. So everyone's
except
just like,
for us.
yeah, everyone's just like super eager to go out, talk to new people, make plans. So that's all in place even the semester. But like in terms of club meetings and all, it's still a little restrictive, but I mean, it's easing up. So next semester, hopefully everything gets back to normal.
So Anaya, do you think you're going to miss out on the campus life, like the big campuses and all? And also, what is your say on the fact that NYU lacks a traditional college campus, but it's also located in the heart of NYC? So
I think I'm more of a city girl as opposed to like someone who likes to live in the countryside. I would prefer living in a city. I can see Shita and Aditi there. Way more than living in a campus in a faraway city in a desolate area. I think being in New York, I mean, I don't think there's anywhere I'd rather be. And not having a traditional college experience also makes you more independent, I feel, because you're a part of the city, right? Your daily lives are intertwined with that of the cities. You're going out, you're exploring more. You're essentially an adult in one of the most fast-paced cities out there. So you learn how to you become more mature and you learn how to live on your own before you actually have to. And I think that really prepares you well for the real world. Because a lot of the times when you're in a traditional college campus, you're still in that sort of bubble. You're shielded against the outside world. You don't know how to take care of yourselves. And being at NYU means that you get to interact with the city, you get to interact with the people of the city. And I feel like that sort of nudges you to become more independent. So it's not just about being in New York and sort of having that vibrant social life and having those abundant opportunities. It's also about how you personally grow, in my opinion.
I think Ishita and Aditi are too excited to have Anaya there as their junior.
We are, and we also want to contribute to this discussion. Obviously, you can't tap your NYU ID to access the subway, but the campus is the city is still your campus. And I would say there's no better place to grow than New York City. It teaches you so much. It's so fast paced. You're always doing something. Like, you'll never be free. It's super fast paced. You learn a lot from the people around you. Like, and I said, like, in a college campus, you're always surrounded by students, but here you're surrounded by people who are like not just students, but it like function in different walks of life. So yeah, you get to learn a lot, and it's a great experience being in a city. But again, it depends from person to person. Some people are more used to and the are used to campus life, and they prefer it a lot more to the city life, and that's upon an individual's discretion. But yeah, we love the city, and I'm sure you'll love it too.
Yeah, it's just so dynamic.
It's always bustling with
Yeah.
energy. Like, you'll never feel low in the city, and you'll never feel homesick.
Yeah, you really won't.
Yeah, you don't feel homesick in the city. Trust me.
I think I'm surely going to apply to a college in NYU after hearing all three of you.
So seeing your love for the city, so apart from your love of the city, what is it that you love about NYU Stone? What is it that made you apply to the place in the first place?
I guess like every college is more about its people than it is about its academics. Because as Anaya said, it like all colleges of all universities and colleges offer the same education. It's the means and how it is catered to you that really makes a difference. So I guess like the professors, the teaching fellows, your fellow students, and all of that really makes a difference. Like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah, same. I think what Aditi said really it is exactly what I wanted to say as well. It's honestly, the education isn't that different from other colleges. It's the way in which you receive it, and it's just all the global opportunities, all the things you can learn from the city itself. Because I feel like, in a smaller college town, you get to spend a lot of time with the same people, but at NYU, you not only get to interact with members of like the NYU community or the Stone community, but also like other colleges nearby. There's like art schools, there's Columbia, there's just so many people that you meet along the way who have ideologies that differ from yours, and you can always, have an interesting discussion with them and learn so much more from them.
Besides, like, NYU is a very supportive school. Like, we have so many resources that may not be available to other schools. Like, for example, we've been really exploiting the Wasserman Center recently because of the COVID pandemic, because we didn't get our first semester, we haven't been able to get internships. But we've been looking for on-campus jobs and all of that, and the Student Life Center and the Wasserman Center really helps us with it. And yeah, it's just that all of the resources that you get as a student in Stern, I think all of that is really admirable.
Yeah, just to add to that, our professor recently offered to look for internships
Yeah.
for us because of the COVID situation in India. Like, the professors are just so supportive and so understanding that they're willing to go the extra mile to make sure that you succeed. And that's just very heartening.
Yeah, like the personal attention, the individualized attention that you get from professors is just unbelievable. She was so empathetic about our situation, and she was like, okay, I'm going to make sure you guys get an internship. I'm going to try my best to get you one. And it was just like so sweet, and like it was admirable.
And I think another thing that I love about Stern is how varied the classes are. Like, you can have classes with just 10 or 20 people, and you can have classes with 150 people, and everything in between. And it just really, makes a difference because you get to experience both smaller discussion based classes that are very participation heavy, and like bigger lectures where you probably don't participate as much but learn just as much.
And you get to interact with a lot more people than you do get to interact in a smaller setting.
So, like, what is your say on NYU school spirit? Like, is there as much unity when compared with other schools coming together for like football, with it being such a big part in like US colleges?
I mean, NYU is D3, so there's honestly not a lot of school spirit when it comes to sport.
We're really not athletic, and we're really proud of that because neither are we.
Yeah.
But I would say Stern has a great school spirit.
Stern really does. I mean, there might be a little friction between NYU schools because we all have like an ego problem where we're trying to
compete against
each other. But Stern has a great school spirit.
Like you can spot a Stoney on the road and not be wrong about it. So yeah, I guess like people at Stern are just so proud of being Sternies. Like it's not funny. And yeah, they have reason to be proud of that. So yeah.
And people at other NYU schools don't have as much of a school spirit as people at Stern do. So they might be a little salty about that at times, but like NYU still has great school spirit nonetheless. Like people within the NYU community might trash each other for being from like different schools, but if someone from outside was to ever say something bad about NYU,
we'd
we
stand in
wouldn't take it.
solidarity.
We
Yeah, we'd
wouldn't
stand
take
in
it.
solidarity. So we're not very athletic, but we are united.
I think that's the best thing. Anaya, even though it's too early to ask you, but what do you love about your college the most?
I think there's so much. Like, I think we covered like professors, we covered the fact that it's in New York. Also, I think Ishita touched upon the global opportunities. I feel like that's really important to talk about. There are so many study abroad programs with NYU, and I think that's a huge part of your college experience. And for me, that was NYU's USP, that I get to take a semester abroad to London or to Shanghai or in Abu Dhabi and learn things specific to that school and learn from different professors, meet new people. I think having a college experience where you're not restricted to just one city is so liberating. And I think it's like making use of your college education to the most. And I feel NYU lets you do that. It has a huge global network. So I think even after you pass out, its alumni network is so wide that you're not going to have a trouble like finding jobs, or even whilst you're in college finding internships, because people are scattered throughout the world, throughout so many campuses.
So like as you mentioned, your major is still undecided, and I think even Aditi's is. So like what factors do you both take into account to decide, or would you take into account to decide that?
So that's what I was talking about. NYU is really flexible with its courses. You get to experiment with a lot of things. So you just experiment with courses that you think you would enjoy, and whatever you actually end up enjoying is what you want to pursue, right? So there's some aspect of data science, like introduction to programming and data science. I thought I would like it, but it didn't intrigue me as much as I thought it would. So that's out of the picture. But I'm really in, I mean, some classes that I've taken do touch upon marketing, and I'm really interested in luxury marketing and fashion. So I might do something in that field. And then next semester you do have practical seminars in fashion that are conducted by this very famous professor called Jeffrey Carr, who's just into fashion and luxury retailing. So I guess I'll experiment with those classes, see if that works for me, and then just go about it.
I think for me, it's something similar. I think it's important to, like, after I get to college, I'll see what courses I really enjoy. I don't want to be rigid from now on, because I don't think 11th or 12th grade IBBM really prepares you for like life ahead. I think it's just like those are like introductory courses that give you a good a good grasp on business, but they're not very specialized. They cover everything from operations to finance to management in that one textbook. So I think when you get to college, you want to do something extremely specialized because you're competing for some of the most sought out jobs in the world, right? So I think once I get there, I'm going to explore and experiment with a lot of different classes, professors, and then see what really piques my interest. And I think, I mean, after seeing that, I think I'll be able to like, settle on a major.
So Aditi, as you're aware that you took a gap year and then reapplied, so I want to ask, like, what did you do in that gap year, and was it important? And what were the disadvantages and advantages of taking a gap year?
So I would say that a gap year really allows you to explore and gauge the extent to which you're interested in an industry or something. So during my gap year, I experimented with fashion. I started Gem Eco with Anaya, and we kind of tried to mix passion and sustainability together, and that's what I thought intrigued me the most. And currently also I think that's what I'm going to pursue. I also did a lot of like non-profit work with two of my other friends who took a gap year, Shri and Aryan, and we kind of made protein bars for people on the road who cannot afford food, nutritious food, and then we distributed it to people that can keep them in the like people who can keep them in their cars and give them to a beggar every time they cross one. So I guess like your gap year is meant to just like be a year of exploration, and during that process you can just discover what you want. A major chunk of my gap year was also devoted towards college applications, but other than that, yeah, I would say that it's just like a time to socialize, travel, explore, see what interests you, and just yeah, that's it. And I think one of the major disadvantages of a gap year would be that you do not like when you're back at home and the rest of your friends are enjoying and like studying and like very busy, you do feel a little low at times, but you have to understand what your priority is and where you are going to be in a year. And I guess like it's all about prioritization and like looking at the bigger picture. So I don't think there isn't a particular disadvantage to a gap year. It really depends from person to person, and like what the needs of that person are. Like if you do not have an option but to take a gap year, then yeah, you have to do it. But yeah, I guess it depends from individual to an individual. Yeah.
Also, I think like I didn't take a gap year, but I just feel like I should mention that usually when you take a gap year, the colleges expect you to do something extremely meaningful. So there's always that pressure. Because if you're reapplying after taking a gap year, you do have to do things in that 1 year that really stand out to the college. And I think Aditi, you ended up doing those, but a lot of people struggle with that, and that might like pose a problem later in your admissions process.
Also to add on, you can always take AP classes. Like I took AP Calculus BC because I hadn't taken Math HL in my junior and senior year in high school. So I guess like if you take a lot of AP classes and you understand what the college that you're going to requires, you can apply for credits and save a few semesters. Like if you want to graduate early, you can take a few AP courses and graduate early. And also you save up on a lot of costs because every course is pretty expensive, and if you have the time to take AP classes and if you're taking a gap year, might as well use that time to like save time and money later on.
This question is for Ishita. We understand that you applied to NYU Stern as an early decision. So, and there were many other options like Columbia. So, what was it that gave you the extra push? What was it that made you so certain that NYU Stern was the place to be for you?
Yeah, so I applied to Columbia ED1 and I applied to NYU ED2. And I got rejected from Columbia, so obviously that wasn't the place for me. But in the process of applying, because I applied ED2, I also got to fill in the applications for like a bunch of other colleges that I was applying to. So I filled in applications for like 14 other colleges, and even though I ended up withdrawing them, they did make me more sure of my decision to go to Stone, just because when you're filling in college applications, you learn a lot about what the community is like in each college, what the community is like, what the professors are like, how what the school spirit is like, how um the location also mattered a lot for me. I mean, if you can notice a pattern, I applied to both colleges in New York because as an ISL, I'm also a city girl. I wasn't very fond of small town colleges. And another major factor was also that when I applied to Columbia, I applied for economics, but in the process of filling in applications, I realized that what I wanted to do was business, because even if I would have done economics, I would have eventually gone on to get an MBA, and I just wanted to get a head start and like focus my education more around my interests. And I think for that, Storm was just the place to be. And I love traveling and I love exploring new cities, and NYU's global reach was definitely one of the major decisions that pushed me to apply ED2.
Okay, so like what for Ishita and Aditi, what is the workload like as a Stern undergrad? And does it allow socializing after school? Like even though you haven't really, I'm sure, been able to do it because of COVID and everything, but yeah.
I think if you had to like summarize NYU Stern's workload into a phrase, it's work hard, play hard.
It is. Well put.
Like that's just it. I mean, we love going out, and when you're in New York it's just inevitable because there's just so much to do. I mean, I read somewhere that even if you try a new restaurant in New York every day for 30 years, you still wouldn't be able to finish all of them. And there's just so much to do. I mean, right now because of COVID, much of it wasn't open, but now that Broadway is reopening and theaters are reopening and you go to the park and you see so many new people, you just see some random person, dancing or painting, and you can go boating in Central Park, and there's
And
just so much
despite COVID, we're usually busy 4 days a week, like just socializing and doing things that are not like academic related. But I would say like the workload is pretty like intensive because you have to take like you can take up to 12 and you have to take at least 12 and up to like 18 credits per semester, and that's almost like 3 to 5 classes, and each class gives you homework every week, and I guess it all boils down to like time management and how well do you know.
Yeah, I think in that aspect, Google Calendar is just a savior because there's just so many deadlines that you have to keep up with. It's not just classes, but also there's club meetings every day during common hour, which is like this 1 hour where there are no Stern classes and it's dedicated fully to clubs. And there's different applications. I mean, when we go on to our junior year, we're going to start recruiting for jobs and internships, and that's just added pressure. So honestly, it's all about time management.
And the first month of every semester just goes towards filling club applications because it's not just about like attending those meetings, but first applying to those clubs. So I guess like at every point in time, you're doing something or the other. Either you're working for your finals, your midterms, applying to clubs, attending those club meetings, going to office hours, going to meetings with your professors, with your teaching fellows. So the workload is intensive, but I guess as long as you know how to like manage your time and dedicate a certain number of hours to your work and a certain number of hours to like partying and socializing, you'll be good to go. Like,
yeah, I think all you need to do is just set your priorities, right? I mean, we have midterms every month. Like, I'm not even kidding. We have midterms every month, but we still manage to find a balance between the two.
and you have to understand basically a college course is like it basically means compacting what you do in 1 year of IB into like 3 months. So the material that's there, the syllabus that is there is pretty like rigorous and it's heavy. So you have to like be on top of your game to like be in the top 35% because the Stern curve will
The
does
Stern
kill you
curve
at
doesn't
times.
help.
Like the Stern curve is infamous for like just messing up your grades. But I guess if you do watch your lectures on time and do your work on time and also like keep a strict schedule of what you're supposed to do when, then I think the Stern curve also works in your favor. I mean, it has been working in our favor since the beginning of fall sem, and let's hope it keeps working in our favor.
So, Anaya, as you have extra time in hand with your boards being cancelled, so is there anything extra you're doing, to adapt well or like have a good time and stuff?
I just want to say, I think every college student should just take this time to enjoy because you might think that college is going to be all about fun in the fall semester, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Like, you should honestly just enjoy these next 4 months.
Enjoy the act of doing nothing.
Yeah, enjoy being home.
I think I have been, especially when the exams just got cancelled, 2-3 days were just relaxing. After that, I enjoy reading a lot, so I've been doing that a lot. That's not work for me, to be perfectly honest with you. So I've been reading some books that I've been like avoiding because I couldn't because of both. So I've been reading a lot of Malcolm Gladwell. I started with Outliers. I'm going to read Talking to Strangers. I was reading some Ashwin Sanghi. That's my guilty pleasure. Weird, like my mythological books. So I've been reading the Chanakya Chant. I also have the Rosabelle line lined up. And aside from reading, I've also been learning how to sketch again, because that's something that I stopped doing because of just IB in general. So I've been sketching a lot, and I was trying to find internships, but I think to get an internship as I mean, you have been admitted into a university, but you're not there yet. It's very difficult to secure internships, so that was a challenge. Aside from that, I was thinking of taking a couple of courses online, whether that's finance or marketing or just like statistics in general, because I think that sort of braces you for the rigor at Stern. Yeah, I think aside from that, I've been taking it pretty easy. Yeah.
So, as I think you're just basically doing recreational activities. So, as you mentioned about NYU the Stern curve, could you tell us more about that? The Stern curve.
Yeah, so this how the Stern curve works is that 30 to 35% of the class scores an A or an A minus, and the rest of the class's grades are determined according to the people who score in the top 30 to 35%. Um, and sometimes it can work in your favor if you do work hard, but sometimes even if you get a 99 and the rest of the class gets 100, you do end up getting a B. Like,
yeah, that happened recently to one of our peers. She got a 99.5, but the rest of the class had just scored full on all their midterms. So the top 35% ended up getting an A and an A
yeah, the
minus.
cutoff for the top 35% was 99.8 something, which was just insane. So
sometimes it doesn't work in your favor, but I think those are very rare circumstances. Like usually it does end up, like if you put in the effort and if you just work really hard, make sure that you have a meaningful conversations with your professors, go the extra mile and attend office hours with both your professors and your teaching fellows, you can really rack up participation points that help in the end.
yeah, because Stern is also like, as much as it is quantitative and objective, it is also about participation. Like almost in all of our classes, like 20 to 25% of our grade is determined by participation and attendance. And professors do make sure that they note down every time you participate in class. Like it's an integral part of your grade. So I guess like as long as you make sure that you're like completing all of their criterias, you can be in the top 30 to 35%. But at times, like if the class is competitive, there's nothing you can do about it. It just crushes you at times.
Very reassuring words.
So you mentioned how NYC was the financial capital of the world. So could you tell us? We all know that NYC is a city where people lead high-paced and very fast lifestyles. So could you tell us if it ever feels intimidating to be in such a city where all the greats reside?
100%.
It is very intimidating.
Honestly, you just take a subway downtown and you go to the financial district and you just see all these people wearing suits, getting out of office, and it is very intimidating at times because it just suddenly hits you that this could be your future 5 years down the line, and you're just really close to this point in life where you really need to decide a lot of stuff. And I mean, even for me, when I chose finance and data science, I was a little confused in the beginning because the reason that I chose to go with finance was because that was what Stern was most renowned for. And that is also Stern's most competitive concentration because almost 40% of your class ends up doing finance and data science, and they compete for the same jobs. And it does get stressful at times, but I think um, you just really need to believe in yourself and be confident that no matter what you do, you'll land up where you're meant to be. And if you just, constantly um, think that you're gonna find your way eventually in life, like it gets a lot less intimidating.
You also have to understand, like, a lot of people do not know this, but like if you consider Stern as a microcosm of any university, you'll realize that you'll never be the smartest person in a room. Like you always underestimate the school that you're going to, but when you come here and you meet people who've achieved a lot more things than you could ever do, like in your high school, you just realize what a competitive environment it is. And even for clubs, like we both rushed for a business fad called AK Psi, and the people that we met, all of them had their own ventures. All of them were going places already. And it's just that every school that you go to, no matter what school you go to, you'll never be the smartest person in the room. So you have to actually work hard and face that sort of intimidation to get somewhere.
And I also think it's never too late to learn something. A major reason why people get intimidated is because they feel like they don't know as much as other people. I mean, that's a very common misconception at Stern where people think that everyone who comes into Stern trying to do finance knows everything about finance. But in reality, people don't. And even if they do and you don't, it's never too late to start learning. I mean, I myself am not that well versed with finance yet, but I think over the summer I'm gonna try and take as many courses and read as much as I can, to just, gauge what the industry is really about and find which part of the industry I want to go into.
Yeah, it's like Stern romanticizes the idea of finance without people knowing what finance is actually about. But I guess, like, because like so many freshmen, they do have to take foundations of finance, and that's where the learning process actually starts from. So if you fall in love with the subject over the course of those few introductory classes, you know it's meant for you. But if not, the rest of the 60% still takes other subjects. So I guess that's the perk of being in a school like Stone. The amount of concentrations, the amount of subjects that you can explore with are endless. And like you can never like experiment enough when you're in a school when you're in a university like NYU, like with so many different schools and so many different subjects that you can take.
So you've mentioned clubs quite a lot of times. So I'd like to ask you, how do they actually work, and like how prevalent and practical are they actually?
I think it differs from club to club because clubs like USWIB are all inclusive. You just need to attend a certain amount of meetings, and even if you don't, their doors are always open for you. And I cannot stress enough on this, but when you're in a school like Stern that's very individualistic, a club like USWIB really comes in handy because it's just a place where, people are just there for each other. But for a lot of the other clubs, they do get very, very competitive. I mean, a lot of them have applications and then first round interviews and second round interviews, and then you still might not get in. That happened to me with two or three clubs at
That
Stern.
happened to me with AKSI. Like we went for the open rush, I went for the closed rush, then got rejected. Like it's all like a process, and then we're rushing next sem as well. Because like we said, like
You
we
can't
don't want to
give
give
up.
up.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, even with finance society and like management consulting groups, some of like the most mainstream, most competitive clubs at Stern. I was on vacation in Boston when I got my first round and second round interviews for finance society, and in the end, I still didn't get in. And it's even more difficult when you're an international student because investment banks in general are less likely to recruit you because of the visa issues. But I think you just have to keep going on and like not lose hope. And I know we're talking a lot about clubs, but they're honestly not the end of the world. We know so many people who didn't take part in any of the clubs. They just went to the meetings. They learned a lot from their general meetings. They networked with their members, and they ended up
getting
going
fabulous
places.
jobs. Yeah. And just to add, getting the second round of finance society is a big deal. Like she really like I think she was one of like amongst our friends, she was one of the best applicants. She got the most number of interview calls. And yeah, it's just great. I just wanted to mention that.
Could you tell us any tips you knew before you applied for the application, and any tips you thought that would be helpful for all the future applicants that are going to listen to this?
Oh, so like clubs like Yusuf actually also help you with that. They had a meeting, like a general meeting on just interviews and how to dress professionally for one. Like all of these clubs host like mock interviews, and they also give you tips regarding what works in what kind of an interview. They do have trick questions. Like we want to mention that. Like they just asked us how many balls could you fit in the Empire State Building. They ask you odd questions like that just to get a reaction out of you and to gauge your personality type.
Yeah, I mean, I got asked a question, why would a pizza delivery man need a pair of scissors with him at all times? And you just have to be really creative. I mean, I guess.
And spontaneous. Like it's all
Yeah,
about
you
like
just
thinking
don't.
on your feet.
I think you just need to be calm during interviews. And like the other thing is, it's always great to ask for feedback. I mean, I did that after all my interviews just to make sure that I know where I'm going wrong and that I can improve on that. And I think NYU also has a lot of resources to help you with resumes and all. I mean, there's VMock where you can upload your resume, and it's this artificial intelligence database that just gives you
a score.
Yeah, it gives you a score and it tells you what you need to improve on. And I think clubs are a great way to practice. Like applying for clubs is a great way to practice for when you actually want to recruit, because I mean, you have nothing to lose.
You can also like book mock interviews on Handshake, which is like a platform for NYU students who want internships and jobs. So I guess like all of those resources really help you. And some of the tips that we would give are just like be calm, be yourself, and be prepared for what they're going to ask you. Like thoroughly research about a club or a startup or a firm that you are applying to. Just make sure if they ask you something about themselves, you don't want to be like blank.
Yeah, and also I think when applying to clubs, for me, this worked out more is better. Just apply to as many as you can. Go out and explore. If you don't like it, you always have the option to leave or like not accept their offer. But it's just great going to their general meetings and learning more about them. I mean, even if you don't get into a club, they still hold general meetings where they teach you a lot about a particular subject or how to recruit for it. I mean, I know that the Quantitative Finance Society and Finance Society and all did hold general meetings where they taught us more about the field of finance. It's all stuff that we haven't learned in classes yet, and it just better prepares you for what's about to come.
Yeah, they're very practical in their approach. Like Lara, the Luxury and Retail Association at NYU, they do call representatives from luxury brands like Gucci and Mac and Bobby Brown just to like give talks. They are high ranking executives who tell you what most people can't, and it's just like held in such a small setting that you do have an opportunity to ask questions that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. So I guess all of these clubs and resources really help you with
Just, but again, it's not the end of the world. I think just a very small fraction of NYU students are actually an integral part of like clubs at Storms. So honestly, I think
it's like
just,
an added benefit again. Like
it's an added benefit, but it wouldn't harm you if it didn't go your way.
It helps you in an experiential way, but it's not the only way to get that experience. Like a lot of people do focus on their GPA rather than like focusing on clubs, because sometimes multitasking doesn't work in your favor.
Okay, so a last question for all three of you. What advice would you give us before we start with our admission application process?
I think just make sure that you research every college you're applying to beforehand. Like, before you start the application, make a list of potential things that you want from a college. Like for me, I think one of the major things that I wanted was a city campus. And so I spent more time. I prioritized my applications to colleges that were in relatively bigger towns more than like smaller towns. And also, I learned this the hard way, but um, even if you are undecided, just have a brief idea of what fields you're interested in before you apply. I mean, especially when it comes to colleges like Storm, because it is a business school at the end of the day. So I think just prioritize and research, and make a spreadsheet of. I love spreadsheets. So just make a spreadsheet of colleges that you're thinking of applying to, and just look at all the benefits, all the drawbacks of going there, and then weigh them against each other, and then prioritize that way. And don't apply to too many colleges. I ended up going to school till like 29th December, 30th December, like right before the applications were due, just because I wanted to apply to as many as I could. And I ended up withdrawing all of them, so it didn't even I mean, the effort was just wasted. But I think um just make sure you know what you really want from the college you're applying to and focus on that.
Yeah, in terms of writing your essays and writing your main Common App essay, I would say just be yourself, identify that one unique selling point about yourself, and just like convey that in the best way that you can when you're writing. Do not try to like use language that's too flowery and like fancy, but just be simple, communicate your idea well, and just explain the college admissions officer what you think your best quality is in any way. It could be a story, it could be any incident that really changed your life, anything that is meaningful and would impact the college admissions officer as much as it impacted you back then, and make sure to convey it well.
Yeah,
because words matter.
And I think, I mean, even if you do want to flex about your achievements or like your extracurriculars, just make sure that you do it subtly and like it's not in your face, because college admissions officers read a lot of essays in a day, and they're so experienced that they know when someone's showing off and when someone's like talking about something that they've truly learned from an experience. So just make sure that you like your flexes are not in their face.
Yeah, and also there are many other areas in the Common App that you can flex. Like there's honors and like awards, and there's your activities lists. So like, just make sure that your Common App is something that's truly about yourself and not about your. It's just not like a piece of flex.
I think I'd say something along similar lines. I feel like researching is so important, and don't just rely on college websites, because I feel like they will give you the most information, but those extra bits, like don't write a very generic template like essay, because colleges see right through that. Like you need elements that are very quirky, that are very specific to the college, that not a lot of people know. And you only get to know those by like watching YouTube videos, talking to alumni, or going on like weird blogs and like finding out things about those colleges that not a lot of people know. And that'll genuinely like set your essay apart from others. And thorough research is always appreciated for the why college essay by the admissions officers. So do not make it very generic. Don't be like, okay, I'm going to talk about clubs, and now I'm going to talk about research, and now I'm going to talk about academics. Don't do that. Make it unique. Secondly, for your Common App essay, do not like, please make your essay like fun to read, because college admissions officers read like thousands of essays, as Ishita previously said, and you need like a fun essay, or you need something like memorable. Don't make it a flex. Make it like you'll have your honors portion, you'll have your extracurriculars portion to talk about your extracurriculars. Your LORs are going to talk about that heavily. So make your Common App essay like very reflective of you, who you are as a person, and try to convey something that's not already on other portions of your application. And lastly, I did this thing to like choose between colleges, especially when I was deciding ED2 and whether I should do one, whether I should apply ED2 to NYU Stern. Make like force field analysis. Like, I don't know, a lot of you must are BM students, I'm assuming. If you don't know what it is, just look it up on the internet. It's very simple. But I made a force field analysis for like the two main colleges I was really confused about. And I tried to use that to like narrow down and like select the perfect option. So yeah, and also like don't be in a rush to select your ED1 and ED2. Just just be very like, yeah, ED1 and ED2 is like a very, it can work in your advantage to a very great extent if you're absolutely sure that you want to go to that school, but do extremely thorough research before you decide to do ED1 or ED2. It's a huge commitment.
You know someone's meant for Stern when they do a force field analysis to measure colleges. Like honestly, I hadn't even thought of that. That's a great idea though. I'm gonna implement it in daily life.
For what?
So this is the end of the interview. And thank you for taking out time and answering all our questions. Also for motivating us to work even harder. So be safe and healthy. Thank you.
A reminder,
Thank
thank you for tuning in to the JPI's fundraising live stream. This is a quick reminder for you to click the link in our description box below and donate to our COVID-19 crowdfunding campaign in association with Give India, Uplift, and Ajala Foundation. Thank you.